It's a really interesting polling number that's making people take notice today. Out of a new Washington Post ABC News poll, 50% of Americans say they would be more likely to vote for a candidate for Congress if they support increasing the minimum wage. That's more than federal health care or a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants by far. And it's, of course, central to Democrats' 2014 agenda. And when President Obama heads to Connecticut today to make his case for a $10.10 minimum wage, he'll have 4 governors there to back him up. Joining me now is Connecticut's Governor Dan Malloy, who will be welcoming the president about 4 hours from now. Good to have you back to the program, Governor. Good morning.
It's great to be with you, Chris.
Well,
exciting day.
You've done this. You've raised Connecticut's minimum wage to $8.70 right at this point. How's it working?
Right. On January 1st, we raised the minimum wage by 45 cents. I have a proposal now to do that twice more, and then 50 cents on January 1st, 2017. So we'll be at $10.10. And put this in perspective, Chris, that's only the equivalent of what the minimum wage was adjusted for inflation in 1968. So I want to be very clear. Labor today is worth at least as much as it was in 1968. And if you think of productivity, it's probably worth more.
Well, but the argument against it, obviously, is that it's a job killer. The national unemployment rate, you well know, 6.7%. In your state, it's 7.4%. Republicans can look at that and say, you know where the biggest job growth is? It's in Texas. And you raised your minimum wage, Dan Malloy, and you're above the national average. What do you say about businesses, about Republicans who say this is going to kill jobs?
Well, what I'd say is that we were above the national average because we had Republican governors for 20 years, quite frankly, who didn't invest in infrastructure, didn't invest in education, didn't invest in the people of the state of Connecticut, all of that which we're changing. In Connecticut, we have about 70 to 90,000 people on a seasonally adjusted basis who earn the minimum wage. Most of them are women. Most of them are raising families, and they certainly need our help. We have to have a rising tide raise all boats in this country. And the idea that people are working for less than the equivalent of 1968 makes no sense at all. You know, Republicans like to say that the government's too big and it provides too many services and pays for too many things. Okay, so change it. Make sure people have a decent amount of money to raise their family. Let's not have people work 40 hours a week and live in poverty while they're trying to raise a family. It makes no sense. And, you know, Republicans are against just about everything. I know the president suggested an increase in the earned income tax credit yesterday in his budget. But they're going to pan that. They have no intention of helping the folks who are earning minimum wage in our country. You know what? Republicans, they should tell the truth. They should tell America that they want people to work for 40 hours a week and still live in poverty. That's what Republicans are in essence saying.
Well, your state, voters at least, are big supporters of this. The recent poll shows that 71%, overwhelming numbers in general, for the idea of raising the minimum wage. And when you get more specific to $10.10 an hour, it's still a pretty strong 62%. Is that how, though, this is more likely to go? Is it going to be state to state, or do you think that there is real hope for a federal minimum wage hike to 10?
Well, there are states that lead on the minimum wage. Connecticut is one of those. Vermont is one of those. Washington is one of those. Washington State, Washington, D.C., for that matter, is another location. So I think states will lead. But I predict that the political pressure for Republicans is going to be too great for them not to raise the minimum wage on a national basis. So let's go back to what that is. I mean, we're talking in the low $7 range for a minimum wage in this country. Now, Republicans had no problem supporting it when George Bush wanted it. But, you know, they have a war against anything that this president suggests, even when it helps their constituents. It makes no sense. It's
widely assumed you're going to run for re-election. Are you? And does this issue help you?
You know, I've never hidden the fact that I like the job. I haven't made a final decision with respect to re-elect. I'm just a believer in raising the minimum wage. I did it on January 1st, this past January 1st. We've done other things in our state. We created an earned income tax credit, which we didn't have, although Democrats had tried to bring that to our state for 25 years. The only state that mandates paid sick days, so that for every 40 hours a person works, you have to earn at least 1 hour of sick time. to put in a bank. It makes sense because we don't want sick people coming to work at daycare centers or hospitals or preparing your food. So I think we've done some really interesting things in the state of Connecticut. And by the way, none of that has led to higher unemployment. Our rate of unemployment has gone down fairly steadily along with the national rate of unemployment.
And let me ask you really quickly and finally, because when you and I have had conversations in the past, they've largely been post-Newtown, and they have been about trying to get new gun control laws passed. And we saw the numbers on those issues, for example, background checks, which was incredible, 90% support, and yet that didn't happen. Do polls like this, do what seem to be the overwhelming support of the American people, of your state, necessarily translate to change?
Well, it did in our state. As you know, we have some of the most stringent gun laws in the United States. I think on a national basis, Americans overwhelmingly believe that if you have to have a license and have a background check to get a driver's license, or if you have to have a background check to get on a plane, you should have a background check done when you're going to buy a weapon. If that one thing, if we could just get an agreement on that, we would make all Americans safer today. We would stop millions of additional felons from buying guns. We would stop millions of folks who have mental health challenges from buying guns. We would be safer if we had universal background checks.
Connecticut Governor Dan Malloy, always good to have you on the program, Governor. Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Now, after